Welcome, everybody, to the Kuadrant community call of Tuesday, December the 10th. It's going to be a reasonably short call, probably, but we have some items at least. And the first item is of Egoski about WASM shims. You want to talk about that, Egos?
Yeah. Can you all hear me well?
Yes.
Cool. I had some issues. Well, Thomas had some issues with the sound. Um, so I'm revamping this topic about the Wasm Shim, how we deliver Wasm Shim binary, because in the end it's a binary in some architecture. Um, Currently, we are using Docker image, OCI images. This is the means of distribution. And so far, so well, when the registry is public and not authenticated. So here, what I wanted to discuss, or at least bring to the table, is what we should be doing when the registry of this WASM image is authenticated. And the for the context, the both gateway API providers that Kuadrant supports, namely Istio and Envoy Gateway, the API to integrate with them uses the WASM module. They both have what is called a an image pull secret, which is basically a secret where you put the credentials so they download the WASM binary, the WASM OCI image, and then extract the binary from that registry using those credentials. So here the question, I guess, is what should we do from the Kuadrant perspective? Where is this secret, or where do this secret live? Because this secret needs to be in the gateway namespace. Well, to be more precise, it should be in the WASM plugin or Envoy extension policy namespace. That there should be a secret with the credentials to access the authenticated registry. Before giving the word to Didi, let me say that not trying to review again the some proposal I made a while ago, but could be an alternative way of doing this. I wanted to highlight instead of distributing the WASM scene as a OCI image, we could deploy some service within the cluster serving by HTTP the WASM binary and tell Istio or Game Boy Gateway, hey, this is where you can get. So this is the other way of those gateway providers to get to fetch the WASM binary. It's basically there is the OCI image, HTTP URL, and a file. The file is more troublesome because we need to mount and blah, blah, blah. So the most convenient ways is either HTTP or OCI image. We were using OCI image, which is very convenient. But then this issue with this authenticated registries came up with some use case I will not mention here. Um, so um, so yeah, that's it. I mean, we either find a way to provide some image pool secret, or we change our way of distributing the WASM machine. For V101, I will try to implement the former That's it. The way of providing the image pull secret. For the next releases, we can discuss further. Yeah, Didi, you were first, I guess.
Yeah, so no, I just wanted to mention that I hit this problem while setting up the pentest cluster, and I feel like uncomfortable sharing this with you, but yeah, the secrets are exposed, and very bad practice, I'd say, and I think like we should address this, and also like for whatever we have, like when we don't have like our catalogs published, we have as well like another issue there that of our staging kind of like environments are not like easy to test, let's put it that way. And for convenience, we probably just went too far, and now we need to probably take more care, and especially when it comes when these kind of auth problems and exposing secrets. I think it's Greg next.
So just digesting what you said there, Didi. I'll say what I was going to say originally. So there's a secret image pull secret that's needed, right? And that's like passed as a parameter to the WASM plugin, right? And so when this seems like a similar problem to DNS, right? Like we need to access something and we don't have credentials to do that. We can't create them, so we need the user to create them. So I would think that we would solve it a similar way, which is as part of installation, you have to create this secret, and you need to either it's a well-known name or you tell us the name, and that's how we configure the property. Same as we do for DNS. So that's my original thoughts. The stuff that Didi raised, maybe we should have a discussion outside of this call on that. Okay, Gus.
Yeah, one question regarding that. So if, let's say, the customer or the user creates one secret with the credentials, they create in the gateway namespace, I guess, or in the Kuadrant namespace, Kuadrant system. That also brings, makes me wonder if there are some, access control or permissions issue. I mean, the user has access to the gateway system. I guess this is the persona involved in all of this is the one deploying Kuadrant.
Right. So it's
right?
like it's going to be a cluster. It's going to be a cluster admin, So
yeah, something like that. So if the cluster admin creates a secret in the namespace of the gateway, yeah, that the secret name should be either it's, as you said, either it is by convention, it's a well-known name, or some specific name. So that's how is my next question is, how is this information being provided in the quadrants here? Do you have? I ask because I've been asking myself these questions like 1 hour ago, and I didn't have a clear answer.
I would think like there's only one secret per namespace needed, right? So like if I've got Ingress Gateway as a namespace, I'm going to create a gateway. I need a secret there. So we can certainly document, like as part of installation, you need to create a secret called Kuadrant image pull secret. And if that's not there, we won't be able, the gateway won't be able to pull the WASM OCI image. And I mean that would be like the short-term fix without, or not even fix, short-term solution to this. But you could then ask the question of, well, do you want to extend that into the Kuadrant CR as well to say it's actually this secret that you should use? Maybe. But again, I think if we use a unique enough name, there's not a lot of value in adding that name to the Kuadrant CR. Like we're just saying, create it with this name and we'll use it.
Yeah, I have tested this solution. So right now for V101, Kuadrant V101, the operator fortunately doesn't reconcile the WASM plugin full spec. I didn't check the URL. I will expect so. I didn't check that. What I checked is that you can manually patch the WASM plugin or the Envoy gateway. I didn't test the Envoy gateway. I only tested the Istio WASM plugin. So you can add the image pull secret manually. So we can document you need to do this patch. First, you need to create the secret. Then you need to patch the WASM plugin. This is for Istio for Kuadrant V101, and I cannot come up with a better solution.
So I guess another option here might be you could change the related image to be a local image, and then you could pull the WASM image from the registry with your own credential and load it into the OpenShift or the Kubernetes image registry, right?
No.
No?
The main difference is that it's not OpenShift or Kubernetes downloading this. It's some agent from Istio doing with a HTTP client, downloading some binary and opening. So
yeah,
that's why it doesn't work like that. Maybe if you can import the image to the local registry, maybe there is a way to reference the internal registry from a regular HTTP client within the cluster. I don't know how to do that, to be honest. But maybe there is a way. Maybe there is a way.
Yeah, I'm not sure of how you would address it, but it might be something to explore. Is like this part of installation. You could download that image and load it into your local OpenShift registry, change whatever it is that's addressing it, and it could pull it that way as well. Just a thought, really.
Yeah, the OpenShift has some tooling that Kubernetes doesn't have with the OC CLI, which is import image, something like that. So you can, from external authenticated registry, you download the image, you put it in the local registry so it can be referenced for deployments and so on without any authentication. Yeah, I know that tooling exists, but again, this is for downloading for deploying images in the URLs of the images are in deployment. So it's the replication controller who does all these things, and this is all integrated in OpenShift or Kubernetes. But
yeah, I guess the question.
The
question is if the registries all have the same type of API, right? Like if they're all following, like if there's like Docker registry, there's Quay registry.
They do, yeah.
So it may be the case that if you change that full address to be, I don't know, OpenShift local registry, whatever it is internally, that it will just go and talk to that registry because it's just the URL of the registry, right? So
then you need to, for Kuadrant V1, you need to overwrite the related image. Thing.
Yes.
I buy that. That can be. I mean, that can be another way of doing this. Yes, I'll try. I'll try to. I try. Yes.
question. So this, we're now talking about the short-term solution. Like, I'm just like, what I'm hearing sounds like another step to the installation number of steps. Is there any different way of looking at it that would be nicer for the actual user in the, maybe not as a fixed, but as a,
That's the, either we document that you have to create a specific secret named in a specific way, and then we would create. Yeah, and then we would create the WASM plugin and expect that secret with that name in that namespace, or we allow the name of the secret to be specified in the Kuadrant CR, and we look for that secret and create that WASM plugin resource with that secret name. Like that's kind of like the end goal, I would say. Like you still need to use it to create this secret, as far as I can tell. So we need them to either tell us what the secret name is, or to create it with a name that we expect.
right. There is no solution where the user doesn't have to do anything.
Not from what I'm hearing.
Thomas, this is only for the images that are behind an authenticated repo. You know, in the case of like that Agus presented, and the case that I actually struggled the last week was because of the brew registry from Red Hat. I mean, like people using Kuadrant upstream, they won't face this.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, understand. And what are you saying, Alex? I don't understand. OCI is?
Alex is saying just don't use an image registry.
Right. Okay. Sure. Okay. Okay. Anything more to add to this subject? Hugo? No? So this means that basically we can document a solution for the current Kuadrant version for people who want to use an authenticated registry. Is that true, or it also needs a code change?
So,
I think it's a documentation. Yeah, we need to add an extra step. Yeah. For authenticated registers.
Okay. Okay. And you are working on that, I guess, because you or not.
I am testing the patch that needs to be done in the WASM plugin and see that indeed it reads the local secret, the local pool secret, and it works. Now the question is how this secret is created and how it's been. But yeah, I mean, I'm testing that, and then try write some documentation steps to do this.
Right. Okay. Cool. Okay. Thank you. Next item. That's me. Yeah, so I just did that before this meeting. I was just playing around with it, like in the .github repo of Kuadrant. You can do org-wide stuff like issue. You can also do pull request templates. I created 2 issue templates and feature request, bug report, basically, and that has effect immediately on all the repos in Kuadrant. You can have a look and just click new issue. You get a picker. Try it. Let me know if there's something missing, if it sucks, anything, or tell me now. Also good, but just so you know. I basically edited what GitHub was suggesting me. I removed stuff. But maybe even more can be removed, or maybe there needs to be extra questions asked in the bug report. I was mainly thinking about the bug report one, where I think it's important that we make sure that when somebody submits a bug, we have they think about how to reproduce it, basically. And like once we think that these templates are okay, we can implement the same ones, I guess, in the downstream. And that's it for me. You want to go next, Didier?
Yeah, well, that makes sense, Thomas, actually, because last month, the guy from IBM that wanted one feature from Arduino, he jumped straight to a pull request, and while he never actually explained what the problem was. And his use case was changing through the pull request in the end. So I guess it's like to put some structure there that they can follow. It's important. So thanks. So yeah, regarding my item, it's like I found out setting up the cluster for the ProdSec team that, of course, we advocate we base our development on Gateway API, which it was designed in mind of having like different roles, different personas. In the case of Gateway API, it's the infrastructure provider, the cluster operator, and the app developer. Of course, like those personas in the cluster, they only show in the documentation the permissions that they should have regarding their API, their specification only. But of course, that translates to the cluster itself, the cluster roles itself. So when we develop, we just don't bear that in mind. We just develop and we try everything with admin privileges in our local kind clusters, which that doesn't reflect, and it actually strikes in our face when we go and try those features on a cluster when we have like limited privileges. One example would be the console plugin being not renderable when you have like only permissions to a particular namespace, and then the UX is a bit broken. You can actually list some resources, but then when you want to inspect them, it just has an error there. That's just one case. Maybe we have like many more and explore, but I think we need to start like taking into account when we try these features and we develop these features just to have like a certain reduced set of permissions for an app developer or a cluster operator, at least for those two. Pretty much that's it.
I think it's a good call to call out what permissions you need in order to use like the console plugin or to get the best out of the console plugin. But I think we have to be careful about painting ourselves into a corner with particular personas and particular RBAC, because every user and organization will have different sets of RBAC and permissions that they want to give to different people. So I think it's probably more a case of documenting what you need in order to do certain things, and then allowing whoever is in control of permissions to decide who that should be given to.
I agree. It's very opinionated, actually. In every cluster will actually vary, and every organization will be different. But what you mentioned is actually true. Probably we need to document what set of permissions are minimum, probably for having a good experience using at least a console plugin or any of our features.
Yeah, like we could come up with a hypothetical set of permissions and say, these are what we think might be a good set of permissions to provide. If you want somebody to be able to apply policies to a HTTP route, here's like the set of permissions. If you want somebody that's able to create gateways and apply policies at the gateway level, here's the permissions. That type of thing might be useful for people who then want to take that and maybe adapt it to their own use cases and needs, but understanding what's required. At the same time, I don't think it's that complicated. Do you know, if you're like any way familiar with Kubernetes RBAC, you're going to know that, like, okay, I want this user to be able to create auth policy in this namespace, so I'm going to create the RBAC for that. But I don't think there's any harm in documenting some of that. I just would be careful about sort of painting ourselves in our test scenarios into a specific set of permissions that may not actually reflect the reality of people using it.
One thing, though, that I think we might also want to take into account is that, like, certain combinations of permissions, how useful. Imagine, like, given let's say I want to make sure that my app developers cannot override my overrides, like edit my policies that contain overrides at the gateway level. But so I give them certain permissions so they can't do that. But the consequence of doing that, they now suddenly cannot see something else that actually I would like them to see. Like, we should think that through. Like, because I'm not sure if we actually know what it all means, in the sense that how usable is it still? If you want to lock one thing down, does it mean that something else is also locked down by definition, because we just never gave it any thought?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to try out, like I said, like a set of permissions that we think makes sense. But I just wouldn't want us to, like, lock it down to, like, this is how you have to set it up, right? And it's like, no. We can't be doing that. But what we can
Sure.
do is, like, yeah, try out like something that makes sense. And to a certain extent, like, Didi and I were doing this the other day. And then just document, like, in order to do these things, you need these permissions. And then it's kind of up to the cluster admin, I guess, at that point, to decide, well, I want to apply those permissions or I don't, or, come up with a whole new set of permissions.
Right. Because, for example, question, right now it is possible to set it up in such a way, permission wise, that as an app developer, I can see the policies, I can read the policies at the gateway level, so I can see what's going on, but I cannot touch them. And then but I can add new policies that in my namespace for an HTTP route. That's all possible.
Yeah. I mean, that's all Kubernetes. That's all Kubernetes permissions,
Right.
So
right, and it's
having,
that fine grained.
Yeah, like having list access or read access to resources and write access in a different namespace. That's all just RBAC.
Yeah. But yeah, good point, AJ. We should try that ourselves more often. Just go through it, see what the possible setup is, and that people who don't have a clue can get started with.
It's like a sensible template.
Yeah.
For the personas to a bit like the observability stuff, right? It's like, here's some stuff that we think is useful. You could probably reuse and grow some on that, right? But it's like, here's a set of templates, an RBAC template for app developer, an RBAC template for the gateway or the cluster admin or whoever it is, and an RBAC template for the infrastructure admin. And, I mean, just have a very simple template and say, this is what makes sense to us, but, like, it's really just meant as inspiration.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, of course, like, we'll never actually provide that as installation method, like, included, but just something, documentation there in our website, and that's it.
Okay, cool. And topic wise, that's it. Unless somebody else has something last minute. I think that's kind of it. Like, I think what it says there, any feature ideas to add it to the GitHub board. I think some were added. That's still there. If something comes to mind, add it. I think we're done. So I'm gonna look over my shoulder to my nice background.
Sorry, Thomas.
Yeah, that's the world we're living. You think you can look over your shoulder and see the nice background, but you don't. Anyway, that's the philosophy call. That's after this one. Thank you, everybody, and see you next time. Take care.
Yes.
Thanks.
Ciao.